All right, we are live. Hello and welcome to the first ever Woodbine Live. I'm Dan Tordjman with America's Best Racing. Hope everyone out there is doing well and lucky to be joined tonight and for the next 11 Thursdays by two of the best in racing, and specifically at handicapping the races at Woodbine. Let's start off with up top with me, Emily Gullikson, well-known horse player, partner at Optics EQ, and handicapper and analyst at Brisnet. Emily, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing well.
All right. And then down below, we've got Ashley Mailloux, racing analyst, paddock handicapper at Fort Erie Racetrack. Ashley, we've got you doing double duty tonight. This is the first leg. Are you ready? Are you ready for this long, extended night of handicapping and gambling?
I am. I have like a Diet Coke that's too large to show because it's embarrassing right next to me, so I think I'll be okay.
Well, I know you were talking about getting the Red Bulls, so I guess you thought it was within reach to do this on just a Diet Coke. I don't get it, but I respect your restraint.
For now.
Yeah. Well, so we've got, for those of you just joining us, obviously this is our first show. We're going to be kind of feeling our way through some of this. But the idea here is that we're going to be watching live racing from Woodbine. The entire time we're going to be kind of analyzing the races, handicapping, and then trying to formulate bets as we go along, and also reading off of, the odds board and looking at movements there and kind of just trying to make adjustments on the fly in a unique way. Emily, if you want to expand on it, I think you bring up a good point. We were talking about this before the show started. What makes this show a little more unique than the traditional handicapping or betting show that you might see?
Yeah, I think we're going to, obviously you've done like a lot of the prep work ahead of time, at least for myself. I'm sure you guys have. You're professionals. It's your first rodeo. But, once you do your handicapping process, you want to focus on how you're going to bet, how you're going to wager. And a lot of that has to do with what's coming up in real time. So looking at the horses, looking at the tote board, making adjustments, looking at the wheel plays, looking at the doubles, looking at all this information that you have on the track. The horse itself, do they wear front wraps last time? Are they coming off? These type of changes that can, impact your opinion and then your wagering. So that's kind of what we want to focus on, going into these races and then, discussing them a little bit afterwards, because I know, I do trip notes. It's kind of one of the things that I'm known for. I do many of trip notes. Is when you're looking at the race, you really want to be looking at it from what's going to happen next time. So you're already kind of thinking in your gambling strategy for the next time out. So discussing that as well, I think is really good information for people to pick up on.
Absolutely. And we'll jump into that. And we'll also, in hour number 2, in the finale tonight at Woodbine, we're going to be watching thoroughbred races at Woodbine, races 6, 7, and 8. In the finale, there's a horse named Mr. Will making his debut, named after Mr. Will Wong, Twitter celebrity, who will be joining us to watch that race. So pretty cool. We're going to watch a race with someone who has a horse named after him in the last race. And if you don't know Will, I'm looking forward to him jumping on because I won't have to talk for the entire time he's on. I know he's going to entertain us, and we'll all just kind of sit back and enjoy the ride. And hopefully Mr. Will ends up in the winner's circle. Aside from that, also in hour number 2, just want to mention for the harness racing players and enthusiasts out there, we're also going to get 3 races from Woodbine Mohawk. So we got 3 standardbred races coming up. Starting at the top of the hour, 2 more races later in the 7 o'clock hour. Ashley, you're going to be pretty crucial once we move to those harness races.
Yeah, they have 2 stakes races tonight. So out of those first 3 that we're looking at. So I don't know if I can carry the team, but I'll try to.
Oh, no, you're going to carry us. And in fact, I'm looking
right in.
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it because, my dad always loved harness racing. He kind of, got me into it a little bit, but I could never really fully figure it out. And I obviously fell in love with the thoroughbreds. But so long as we're going to be doing this for the next 11 weeks, I better learn a thing or 2 along the way. And so we'll all be learning, and Ashley will be a big source there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and pop up the stream from Woodbine here. By the way, I want to mention also, if you're watching on your computer, you're in the U.S., and you don't have an ADW, and for whatever reason, you don't have an ADW, and you're like, I want to watch these races right now, follow along as they're talking. You can do a number of things. We're watching on the Woodbine live stream right now from Woodbine's website, but even more entertaining than this is Racing Night Live, which you could actually catch if you're in Canada on TSN. If you're not in Canada, if you're in the US watching, you could catch it on America's Best Racing's YouTube channel. So go there right now and watch Racing Night Live. Bill Zsigmond has the right idea. He's ready to drink. I'm ready to bet. And so let's kick it off with this first race that we're going to be digging into at Woodbine. It's the 6th race tonight. We got 6.5 furlongs, a $25,000 claimer. Emily, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, when you're looking at this race from a gambling standpoint, and even from a handicapping standpoint, is to start with assessing your favorite. And so right now, the favorite on the board is the number 7. The 2 horse, I just saw, they posted Jason's ticket ahead of time, and he has him singled. When I went through this race, I thought this horse was a pretty soft favorite. I mean, a win, like, he's got the back class and he could win. But my concern with him, there's a couple concerns. One, he's a 12-year-old. He's going to make his second start off the layoff. He's coming off a really kind of poor effort, which for him is not characteristic. I went back, I looked through all of his races since the beginning of time. He's gone off a layoff, and he usually runs his race. So the fact that he kind of gave that poor performance, and now he's the favorite, I understand he's getting a little bit of class relief. Maybe he needed that last race. They're going to go to a surface change, which he's run on the turf before. Things that are positive that could see him wake up. But in this wide open race, I think there's other ways to go. So I'm going to kind of attack it as a soft favorite, especially, knowing that, seeing Jason's ticket and seeing that there's a lot of tickets that are probably going to single the 7. I'm going to go elsewhere. I see some people on there that have the 2, and I like this horse as well. Let me look at the name here, Soleri. He's going to make his second start off the layoff, and he's coming out of a race where he set a really, really, really fast pace. That race itself, so he's kind of a flow upgrade. He might even have a pace advantage in here, even though speed's been kind of a little tough to hold on this card. Just kind of something to note. But there was one next out winner of that race. Ashley might be familiar with it. A horse that ran at Fort Erie and won in an allowance race on June 23rd. So I think there's some positives in that aspect. And just kind of real quick, I mean, the number 1, I know he was listed kind of a shorter price on the morning line. I had him at no value. I'm not crazy about him. A little bit playable if you like him at 6-1. The number 4 is an interesting horse. I think he presents value in here. He's got upside, kind of returning the season off his 2019 races, kind of an abbreviated season there. And just kind of outclassed against the allowance group and sort of right back where he belongs in claiming level. The number 5, this is a horse, it's kind of tough to see him on the win end, but certainly capable underneath. And the number 6 is kind of another horse that, maybe offers some value in here. Was kind of bet down last time out. Not kind of the most ideal trip. Not sure quite where he fits on class, but seems that this is kind of a good spot here for him to kind of rebound. And I guess the last horse is number 8, which is a little concerning with the class drop and being super cold on the board. I don't think that's a real positive sign. Probably want to see a little bit more because of that drop, because he's been facing so many other horses. Again, another horse that can win, but kind of those negative aspects that you can see on the board that are kind of tells.
Yeah, and exactly to your point about what makes this show a little different, we can kind of look at this and react in real time. And so I'm with you. I had my doubts and my questions about Wyatt's Town, the 8 horse. I mean, look, the horse put in a nice work off of that poor effort, but there's no missing the fact that the horse has dropped down from grade 3 company a couple of races ago into this race now. That's got to be a big red flag. I thought so. One question was, are you using or tossing him off this dramatic class drop? And the other question is that you touched on earlier, Emily, is will Salieri be loose on the lead? And if so, can the horse wire? Ashley, how did you answer that second question about the pace developing here?
So I think that's why the 2 has a big benefit here. Like, second time out, right? Did set a really, the half one in 44-3. They were cooking on the front end. And I, can understand why you faded. Emily brought up a good point with the 3rd place finisher in there. Adrena's Bullet came back in 40 on the dirt to win. It's an allowance race, and people might compare that however they want. But I will tell you, he's a nice gelding. You would think he's got turf pedigree. He can run on the turf, but he's actually, in my opinion, better on the dirt. I do think I have to use the 2 just based on, the early turn of foot. Yeah, I think you have to use them on your tickets. Emily also mentioned the 1, and I was kind of saw the morning line at 4-1. I would have expected this horse to float up just looking at his record on the turf. I mean, for me, with a horse that's had 6 attempts, 5 at Fort Erie, only 1 3rd place finish, I'm not ecstatic about that. Yeah, the last time out over the Tapeta was a good performance, but I think we kind of mentioned the horse that I'm surprised is 9-1 on the tote board right now is the 4 Fast Negotiations. This was probably the horse that I starred in Circle. That's kind of my play for value in here. Like I said, I'm really surprised on the odds. Just, yes, the horse has had a lot of time off, but he likes the turf course, likes the distance. And you look at some of those races, he's been pretty forwardly placed in some of them. Others has a stalking trip. So I thought, they're going 6.5. They have a little wiggle room as to figure out what sort of trip they want to get with him out of the gate. And maybe he'd, be coming at the end of this race.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. And we talked about there are a couple of Robert Tiller horses in here. You have that option potentially of sending one and kind of having one sit off a little bit. With Fast Negotiations in particular, Kimura, it stays aboard here. He wins at 39%, went up for Robert Tiller. And also, since racing resumed at Woodbine, I thought it was interesting. I just kind of ran a couple of quick numbers. Tiller turf starters are 0 for 7. But 5 of them have finished second or third, which tells me that his barn is getting in gear and he's bringing horses back and spotting them in races where they've got opportunities to win and are at least running competitively. So that's a positive sign. There are a couple of barns that you'll see at Woodbine up and down. They're a little cold. There are some that are a little hotter. And so I would assume that that's going to, factor into not only the way you play it out there, but also the ways in which the odds board is reflecting some of those preferences. Wanted to mention on the one horse, Sumerian Ball, hasn't been on the turf in 6 starts. The trainer shows only 2 wins from his last 31 starters going all weather to turf. I did think the horse did look good first start back off the long break, but closed into a pretty hot pace in that race. And so
that's the key.
Yeah.
Major flow.
Yeah, so I don't know that we're going to see that play out again. So as things stand, I think, we've kind of made clear here, the 2 is probably the horse who stands to benefit most from the way the pace projections are set up. So underneath, who's the price underneath if you had to pick one at this stage, looking at the board?
I think we talked about him. If you're keying the 2, the value kind of seems to be with kind of 4, 5, and 6, in my opinion. Yeah. Another way I'm just trying to look at the doubles right now, and kind of seems like he's going to take a lot of money, but the number 4, I don't know if you guys have looked ahead in race 7, kind of looks like a pace advantage. So I'm trying to just chart and see kind of what those doubles are, because that's, it's a good kind of low takeout bet here at Woodbine. And you want to kind of take advantage of those when you're getting the best of it on that end.
Yeah, I think we may have some. I
know
that I like the 4 in the next race too, and I saw you tweeted out earlier, so I know the 4 Rapid Beat in the next race is one that we're waiting for. I definitely like that horse a lot, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. I also agree with actually, as I mentioned, Fast Negotiations. I think 9-1 right now on the board is actually a pretty surprising price. I thought this horse would take a little more money than that. And we do see now why it's down. The 8 horse, that kind of taking a little bit of money, is 2-1, is going to go off as the favorite or second choice here. On the plus side, I think we kind of poo-pooed this horse a little bit. To be fair, as I mentioned, has the good work on June 19th. Also, in terms of connections, Justin Stein up for Norm McKnight. They win at about 40% together. So it's a tough call. I generally will stay away from these horses, especially at short prices when they're taking this big of a drop. I don't know. Ashley,
opened up cold, I think, is a sign, and still just kind of, some of it's coming in, but sometimes too, I kind of like making a note of maybe they want to get rid of this horse and that's why they dropped him. And so sometimes that can be a sign too with that bullet work, is to just be a little bit bait-like, like less, maybe not quite doing so well. Because typically you would, if the horse was improving, you'd at least take another shot, second off. So yeah, there's little signs on there that I'm willing to go elsewhere. I think we're getting good prices other ways, and you're not going to win them all. I think it's worth taking on.
Yeah, I think that the concern obviously is he's kind of plummeted in class. He was only lightly raced last year too. He only had those 4 starts. They gave him the winter off. They tried him that one time down at Mahoney Valley, in the fall before that. You only saw him 4 times. He only had that one on the board finish, which came in the grade 3 race. I thought his race after that was fine over the turf going 5 furlongs. He's beaten by length. And, the 3rd place finish from there came back a winner next time out. But that last race is a head scratcher. I mean, he showed literally nothing on paper. You know, you have the angle of, you know, if some people look into it, first time gelding, they gelded him since that effort. You know, that's something to consider if that's kind of your angle. But yeah, the work, when you see 46 like that, that makes you kind of question a lot of things.
All right, so they're just about in the gate at this point. I did try key boxes 2/4.7. I see it. That's what I've narrowed it down to. I mean, last second thoughts. I'm throwing in a bet here.
I'm playing doubles to the 4 in the next race. That's where I know I'm jumping ahead, but
no, it's good.
It's good. I mean, 30. I'm kind of charting it. We're about 37 on 2-4. So they're all.
Ashley, you gonna do the race call?
I am not this time. Only in Maryland.
Well, we have a live video, so that helps us. That bails us out. But as we expected, you have Solari right on the front end. Fast negotiations, you expected, kind of chasing close to the pace. Wyatt's down tracking, kind of uncovered behind him. We'll see how kind of fast they're going. 6 being pushed along, kind of starting to move up. 1 kind of well off the pace. Honest, not crazy fast, a good 23. They're starting to see that 8 lose ground on that turn. 6 going a little bit wide. 1, I can't tell if they're pushing along there quite yet. Chasing inside. Also watching 2 feet, so I can be ahead of you at the same time. Move a little bit up the rail, but we got a good advantage here. 4's getting a little bit tired. Some late move on the 7 and the 6 on the outside, but not going to call it early.
This looks pretty good.
I'm very nervous here.
I think we're off to a decent start, I would say.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's it. Right underneath. They got
2-4 cold. What's up? That's the way to start the show.
5 underneath and the 6 the value. That was a huge play right there for us. Tossed the bad favorites, tossed those chalks, said the 1 was a soft, and got our 4 horses in there. That's making money.
So here's the real question. The 6 is 3rd, am I right?
I believe so.
Yeah.
What did you bet?
I needed the 5. I needed the 5 for 3 to try. That's why.
Tell me, did you hit an exacta? Did you put an exacta in?
I have an exacta, yeah, and I had win place on the 4. But 2, 4, 5 try would have been nice.
Well, look, that's the way to start this thing. I don't know how often this is going to happen.
6 pips, it's tight, but 6 pips, I'm like right there.
Yeah. Well, look, the difference was today. I mean, last out, the horse went. We talked about it. Went bonkers fast. Went 22-2 and 44-3, and then today was loose, going 23 flat. And I think the half mile was 45 and change.
It was 45, but he was also by himself this
and
time.
Was loose.
He wasn't getting pressed. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that opening quarter was like the big difference too. I mean, getting loose for 23. And even though they picked it up in that second quarter, I mean, that's a little breather, because in turf sprints, especially on the front end, you're usually going, it's kind of different on the dirt, but you're going fast early, right? And then you saw those closers. So I think that really created a lot of separation for him in terms of pace. But yeah, that was just such an awesome read, handicapping that race and then letting the board just kind of cut out some of those horses. And some people are happy. I see some positive comments in the chat. So
there we go.
We should stop the race right now and the show.
Exactly right. Let's
take
retire.
The break for 11 weeks.
20 minutes in, just game over.
Yeah, let's be done with this. My dad is surprised about. He's either surprised we like I helped pick a winner, or that I was right on this, or he's surprised that he cashed the ticket betting on it. But no, this is great. I mean, all around. A lot of people cashing tickets so far right off the bat. Exactas, doubles here. Very, very good. No, this is the start. And we've got this comment from Dustin O'Hara. Cezanne, ready to jump ahead, like ready for it to be Cezanne time.
He's ready to go to a different coast.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just pick up and move. But no, it's we're off to a really good start here. I'm pumped about that. So, all right. Well, how do we top that? I don't know. Do we have these prices are really, really good. We beat what looked like on paper 2 really bad favorites. and we got them off the board entirely, and we scored with a top choice, and then sort of a value play that I think we all touched on. So I'm excited about that. Okay, so here it is for my dad. This is the reality. This is what he was trying to convey to us. He did not bet the race. So
I mean, he didn't have to listen to you. He could have just listened to Emily and I.
Exactly. Just ignore me. Just because I agreed doesn't mean that you can't bet the horse. So all right. So one race down, 5 to go in total. The second one, the next one coming up here is the 7th race at Woodbine. It's a $7,500 claiming, non-winners of 3, going 5 furlongs on the turf. Is that the inner turf? Inner turf? Am I right?
7.5, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got that coming up. Let's see. That's at 6:45. So we got a good 20 minutes to jump into that. It might be a good time to let people know. Also, you see the dark horse down there at the bottom. The dark horse refers to a new app that has been launched by Woodbine. If you haven't heard of it, check it out. Dark horse, by the way, if you're in Canada, you could download it. There's basically AI technology built into that app that will select races for you. It'll tell you who to bet. And it won't give you every race. It'll just tell you which races that their computer-generated AI programming likes. So it's really cool. Check that out. If you're not in Canada, it's not available anywhere. You can go to playdarkhorse.com. You can check it out there and look for an expansion of Dark Horse's availability here in the near future. So I wanted to mention that. And also want to mention Woodbine again and thank Woodbine for getting behind this idea, which is kind of a little crazy and weird, but we're all sort of in a weird mood being stuck at home. A lot of us still stuck at home, even on this 4th of July weekend and Canada Day week. Let me just say that, since we are streaming Woodbine. So here we are. We're going to stream. We're going to roll with it and hopefully find some more winners. Let's jump ahead now to the 7th race. Ashley, Emily started off the last one. I'd be happy to toss this one over to you to kick us off on the 7th race here at Woodbine.
Sure. So we have a claiming event for non-winners of 3 life. You guys had kind of mentioned already the 4 rapid beat. So I'll give some info on this horse. I'm sure the trainer might not ring a bell. Carlton Johnston, he is related to Rob Johnston, who trains for Bruno Schickendans down at Penn National. So my best guess with this horse is from the workouts, it probably was with Rob Johnston down there. Now they didn't race. Penn's back racing. So now they've kind of decided to ship this horse to Woodbine. Obviously, there's probably, different reasons for that, but they did something similar at Fort Erie with 2 horses. I believe one, if not both of them, have already won this season, and they had the option to go to Penn. So it looks like they're being kind of strategic with their shipping. I thought this horse was interesting from that pace perspective that we said. I mean, you look at this horse wants to be on the front end. You saw that 2 back in the turf race. I understand it was in October, but I did like this horse. I'm not surprised to see him kind of sitting at 2-1. And, the other logical, I guess, on paper, when you look at the 7, who was 2-1 morning line, sitting at 8-5, kind of knocking at this level for a while over the Tapeta is going to try the turf today. Some of these horses, I don't know. He kind of just seems to me those last 2, he kind of just hung around. He really wasn't getting the job done. I think in this spot, you probably have to use him just based on his workout tab. I mean, it's consistently been fast the last 3 breezes. Obviously, time isn't necessarily the biggest indicator since we're not watching them. But again, you talk about connections, Norm McKnight and Kazushi Kimura, they're 33% at Woodbine. Norm's got a lot of positive in certain angles. The horse I kind of lean to is maybe price, maybe for second, could even win. I did like the 2 Station Rock a bit. Cole Bennett's been off to a decent start, 4 for 6 in the muddy at Woodbine with those 2 wins. And if you look at this horse, I know the horse just raced on June 18th, but it was at this level over the Tapeta and, was game in the stretch. And that's kind of the key with this horse. I mean, he's always kind of closing late. You can see that in the run lines. You can see that in the replay. So I liked him underneath. He doesn't have any of those, turf wins, but he's got 2 for 5 in the money. And I thought he'd offer more value than the other 2 I mentioned.
Awesome. Overview. Emily, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of hoping the result was just like in race 6 with the number 4, just kind of looks to have a pace advantage in here and kind of a square price right now at 4-1. His 2 races last season coming into this race were both very fast paces, so he's an upgrade off those. On Optics plot, he's kind of a circle and quad 1. similar to how Salieri looked in this last race, because of those fast paces, he's going to have that circle, which kind of indicates the lack of finish. And then there's not a lot close to him, the number 7 kind of close behind, who's your current favorite. So I think in terms of trip, he has some upside, but again, like you said, there's no turf racing in there, and maybe distance wise could be just kind of prefer a little bit longer. I think that horse is fine in this race. And then just kind of going through number 4, number 4 is 2-1. Looking at the wrong numbers. Station Rock. So I think Station Rock's fine, just kind of following him all through last year. I know he's second off a layoff and getting some class relief out of those races last year, but he just kind of tends to run the same race each time. So kind of more of an underneath there. B- last time out, kind of had some things going the right way. But that was kind of, let's talk about the number 1, because I think that's kind of another horse people be interested in here. I think that horse is okay in here too. He's kind of logical again off the last trip. So I sort of see number 1 and number 2 similar. And again, the board does as well. Doesn't look like we're going to find a whole lot of value in this race, but.
Well, you might have played it the best way with those doubles, right? I mean, you look like you might have found some value through those doubles.
We'll see what it is. 37, I believe, was what. But yeah.
I think we got, so trying to remember now. So it was 2, 4, 6, right? So 2, 4, 5, 7 for $10. I'm assuming that's an exacta and a try. $3 for 2, 4, 4, 5, 6, 7 with all. I think this guy cashed for a lot of money. So Joe, spread the good word. Very good. Yeah, about this one horse a little bit. I mean, I took a look at that horse, and I just, I never know what to do exactly with this kind of horse. You have a horse who's dropping down from the $40,000 optional claiming level to $7,000, non-winners of 3. Huge drop, like we just saw in the last race with what's his name, Wyatt's Town. That's a horse you probably want to stay away from. The horse looks like he went off at about the second choice. Didn't run a terrible race. I mean, ran second, lost by a length. Now what do you do? I mean, do you come back and bet the horse now? I mean, I think
you have a different scenario with this horse versus the other one, because in those other races, it's like they were trying to win, and Gasconade last year, he was kind of primarily racing in sort of this lower claiming N3L level. You can kind of go back to see his races last summer. So this is sort of more of a level where he belonged. I don't know if it would just had to do with timing, or they thought, maybe he's getting good, or what, kind of closing down the end of the season, putting him in those races. But he just sort of didn't belong in either of those starts. So I'm not seeing it so much of a class dropper, more than that was just kind of poor placement. And then this just being sort of a subtle drop off the races at the N3L level last season, which fit in here. So yeah, I mean, I think he's fine. The 5 furlong distance, maybe a little bit short, just kind of based on his running style, especially in a race where if there's not a whole lot of speed, that might, kind of compromise an off-the-pace runner at 5 furlongs.
Yeah.
I think my concern with him, I could use him underneath. I don't think I can use him on top. There's 2 things. Like, and Emily's kind of pointed this out, like the class relief. Yes, even from that 15, he's getting that class relief. But I look at those 15 turf races, and I'm not too keen on them. Obviously, his record, both of his wins have come over the synthetic. Now he's got to get onto the turf, try to get a win. He's 4 for 16 at Woodbine in the money. But I could see him still stepping up on the turf just because of that class relief angle.
Mm-hmm. He has a win on the turf from June 16th in 2018, but that was a race where he had a major flow setup. It was at 6 furlong, so he had that extra furlong, but came from well out of it and had that super fast pace to close into on that day. But that was and also back in 2018, so been a little while.
Yeah. So that brings up, this is sort of a little bit of a tangent, but we could take one since we've got 15 minutes to the next race. In terms of back class, I want to ask both of you this, and back form, How far back do you go? I mean, I know I've been on some of these streams lately, and I've been ridiculed for saying, hey, look, this horse hasn't run a mile on the turf, you know, at this level in 2 years. But 2 years ago in that race ran really, really well, and it's been spotted, you know, incorrectly ever since. Are those arguments valid? Can you go back, you know, 2 years and say, you know what, I can make excuses for every race since then because this horse wasn't running in this kind of race since then. Whoever wants it can take it and start us off.
I think that's kind of the key is you kind of have to look at it situationally. And, you know, if you're, you know, taking notes for each and every single one of those races, and you can really say like, okay, well, he's had trouble there and he was just not at the right distance there. And like, you know, they've been trying to get on the turf, but it keeps getting washed off. You know, like there's certain things that you could say and kind of make a case for like why this horse would get back to that race and fit in this spot. Generally, I think it's best to focus on recency, you know, to look at, like we did in the last race, like looking at that number 7 and saying, look, this is a horse, he's 12 years old. His last race was poor. He should be right. You know, he's run better off the layoff before, you know, that type of thing where like the recency overtook the fact that, yeah, he's had races that could crush this field. So we're going to boost that up as far as, you know, that kind of taking precedent. And then, of course, you know, the fact that it's a short favorite. When you've got, you know, a long shot and you're really trying to dig in the PPs and you're like, well, there's one running line. I hate the favorite. I don't like this. I don't like that. I don't really know where else to land. Then, you know, you can easily like kind of make a case to take a swing. But I think it's important, like as we're talking about this, to sort of have that process, you know, going into the race, like kind of understanding all those elements than just trying to like pick out a race from 2 years ago and say, yeah, today's the day.
Right.
I think recency is key, but like I can think of a prime example, and this is just because it happened on Tuesday at Fort Erie, but there was a horse, it was an Irish bred horse, but his name's Conqueror Galactus. He's lightly raced. You could see, you know, his 2 wins came over the turf at Woodbine. They were 2 years ago. Then he had a layoff. Then he only had 2 Tapeta races. His second one off the layoff was better. Then they try the dirt once, and he gets beaten by 21 lengths in a short race. So when he gets on the turf finally, it's a firm turf course. I expected him to improve, and he won. So I think in cases like that, and you can kind of go through those races and see a movement, yeah. But if a horse, you know, just because 2-3 years ago he had one awesome race on the turf at this level, that's sometimes reaching, unless you can really follow their progression and what's kind of unfolded since then.
No, fair enough. We had a comment where someone wanted us to talk about a horse who we haven't talked about much. 8-1 right now, the 3-horse Meet Cute. I mean, I think you could see really poor result last out at this level. Hasn't really been close in the last 3 starts. Hasn't won in 6 starts, dating back to an all-weather win at Woodbine in December. Sunny Singh was up for that. Rides here as well. I don't know. The lone turf try was nothing to write home about either. And again, that said, he does have some back form against tougher. So if we want to talk about back form, maybe this is a horse we can use in some capacity, maybe underneath. Any strong opinions on the 3-horse here?
Well, a couple things I'll say is that he's going to make his second start off the layoff. And I noticed coming back last time out, after 84 days, he had front wraps on. I just looked right now, and he's not wearing front wraps today. So I think that's sometimes a positive, just when you're looking at visuals, just as far as intent, could see kind of a move forward. He also had some trouble at the start, so he's a little bit further back, kind of moved up, and then saving ground there. But again, I think Trip at this shorter distance, because he's kind of got those sometimes gait issues where he's a little bit slow. I mean, maybe that changes on the turf. We just don't know, as one race was yielding. Maybe he finds his footing more suitable. But to me, I think that's kind of the liability there, is just in terms of Trip and breaking slow. But otherwise, I mean, kind of fits on class. Hasn't quite – been a little soft at the N3L level, but I mean, you can, again, if you didn't like the other horses at a short price, and you felt 8-1 was fair, I could see somebody, you know, kind of making a case and land that way.
Yeah, I'd have to take a wait and see approach. I mean, Steve Cherkop, he does well off second off, but I think with this horse, you can kind of see this winner. He took a slow route to get down south, right? He made some detours, went to Penn National, went to Laurel, and then went to Gulfstream. Not sure he really loves the dirt based on those. I mean, his first race over the dirt was fine. I mean, he was third. He was kind of making a move late. But I do agree. This is probably the level to, to keep him at and see what he does this time. But I can't endorse him anywhere near the top of a ticket against these other ones in here that have shown a bit more recently, or, in the case of just the pace scenario alone, I think there's some benefits to having some early foot.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think, you can make an argument for using the horse underneath. I have a hard time envisioning, especially when we talk about, Rapid Beat potentially being loose on the lead. I don't really see any sort of situation in which this horse is close enough to make any significant impact late, but maybe can close in for a piece. The other one that was just mentioned in one of the comments, Sean Patrick Nolan mentioned Station Rock, and we've talked about this horse a little bit already. I mentioned this was an inner turf race and just kind of ran some quick numbers. Emma Jane Wilson, for what it's worth, since they opened the inner turf there at Woodbine last year, winning at a 25% clip on the inner turf, which is a pretty nice number. Rafael Hernandez on the 4 as well, pretty strong on the inner turf. And so, there's that. That's potentially another angle there. And if you liked any of those two, that's got to make you feel even more confident. No horse here really running away with the money. Royal First obviously taking, steady action here. And you've got those strong connections again, McKnight and Kimura. And so I think just on that alone, a lot of people will be firing away and taking a swing there. And again, the horse has been close at this level twice already. The question is, will we see the horse who has sat off or sat off the past couple of races, or will we see the horse who went to the lead, or at least tried to go to the lead in the races prior? And I think if Kimura has handicapped this race as we have, he probably knows that if he lets the 4 horse get loose, he's probably not going to catch him later on.
Well, the problem with that is, sometimes the rider can have all the intentions in the world, but this horse just isn't very fast early. And so those 2 races where he was on the lead when he broke his maiden, and then right back then to a level, those are much slower paces. Yep. So yeah, if the 4 wasn't, if the 4 wasn't in the race and he's able to get a soft pace, but in those last 2 races, those were both very fast early paces, and you can kind of see he was, he had to track. He just didn't have the early speed to go with him. So I kind of see that trip here where, if the 4 comes back and he shows the speed that he's shown in the past, the 7 is just going to, by default, he's just going to be chasing. And maybe that's a good spot for him because he'll have first run. He's going to be, out in front of those other horses if the 4 quits. Goes too fast for his own good, he could just be sitting right there. But just based on what these 2 horses have shown this far, the 4 is he's much faster to the first call than the 7.
You expecting the 7 to chase and fade, or chase and definitely hang on for second or third?
No, I think the 7 is legit in here, kind of based on that trip. Both his races at this level last year, again, we kind of don't know as far as the turf, but, a good second. And then back on December 11th, it's just worth noting the track conditions were really poor that day, and the card was actually canceled after this race. So kind of, take that with a grain of salt as well. But for both those races, it seems that he fits at this level trip-wise, should be right there. It's hard for me to kind of in this field when we're going to go through the other ones to kind of be really hard against him, especially now he's kind of shifted second choice.
So you got Gasconade right now, the 1 horse 5-1, Station Rock the 2 5-2 right now, Meet Cute, who we just talked about a moment ago, 11-1. Rapid Beat, a horse that we've talked about quite a bit, expecting this horse to be loose on the lead potentially at 2-1. And then you've got the 6 horse Andretti at 7-1, Royal First 5-2. Ashley, anything jump out at you? Maybe a horse being, taking more action than you expected, or anything that seems potentially juicy in terms of a price out there, a horse that's taking less money than you expected?
The 4 is a little lower than I would have put it, 2-1. I know co-favored. I am a little surprised too with the 2 getting back down. Also, maybe because I, secretly wish that horse was a bit more of a price. But I want to talk a little bit. I don't think we really talked about the 6, right? Yep. Sandretti in here, who, Justin Stein climbed aboard late last year, got the second lifetime win, going 5.5 over the Tapete. Was second at that level. Then next time out, won for the $7,500 tag, going 5.5. And kind of looking at the finishers in some of these races, I mean, Rapid Beats beat him. Also, Station Rock has. I mean, the most recent effort was a pretty good race. He was kind of far from off the pace, several lengths back. The runner-up we've seen at Fort Erie this year has already won and then had a third-place finish over the dirt just this past week. I do think some of the others in here have better numbers and should get a better trip. He's a horse maybe at this value I would use for third on a ticket. I don't love him first time off the layoff, just seeing last year. Obviously, he was facing better, but he needed a couple races to kind of get into gear. His last breeze was a little faster than the others. So I think he's maybe interesting for third. I don't think I could see him, first off the layoff getting any better than that.
The Fort Erie anecdotes, by the way, are just spectacular. You're not going to get that anywhere else. You're not.
Here's the thing.
You're just not going to get anywhere else.
So when you kind of look at this race, it's a 7,500, right? Non-winners are 3 lifetimes. So, I mean, this is a level we offer. And I would make a bet right now that 2 of these horses might start at Fort Erie before the end of the season, kind of at the same level. They might try the dirt. They might try different things with them because you can kind of see here. This is, something that we typically see. And just looking kind of at the horses, a lot of names stick out.
Emily, a horse like Sandretti jumping up from the non-2 to non-3 level off a long break, I guess that's another variable that you might want to consider. Usually when I see these horses coming back within like a 2-week span, I automatically put a line through them, especially if they've tried a bunch of times at the non-2 level and they just finally broke through. Now jumping up to non-3, I just kind of say, no way, it's not going to happen. Is this field bad enough, though, to where you could make a case and say, you know what, this is a horse that logically off of a 6+ month break, jumping from non-2 to non-3 against these can potentially break through?
I mean, there's a potential for anything. I mean, his numbers aren't that far behind. He was a 3-year-old last year. He's a 4-year-old. So you can project some upside on that aspect. Obviously kind of the shorter distance he seems to like, but also kind of benefits from some pace to unfold in front of him. Not impossible. It's hard for me to get excited in this spot. But I think, again, those are kind of positive aspects that could see him compete at this level. There he is on the track right now, warming up. A lot of horses out there warming up, which is something I'm not typically a fan of, I'll be honest.
Wanted to mention, I did run because I literally had nothing better to do with my time. I ran some more numbers on the trainer of this 6 horse, which, by the way, I need a pronouncer. Ashley, I told you I'd be going to you for pronouncers, especially later on when we get into the Bayer-Jeans and the Filions and all the.
Look at you.
Yeah. I hope I did that well. Give me a pronouncer on the trainer of the 6 horse.
I can't do this one. I've never been able to do this one. No, and he races horses at Fort Erie, and I just am brutal. So this would be one that I would kindly decline and try to skate around on air.
Is it La Douce? What do you think, Emily?
Oh, God, I don't know. I can't even get the horses' names right most of the time. I'm going with numbers and colors. I'm not even going to take a swing, and I can't even say the name of the town that Woodbine is in, so I'm gonna pass on this one.
Well, we'll call him Harold. We know that much. His first name is Harold. Harold's last 18 starters off a 6-month break. So same situation as Sandretti over here. Last 18 starters off a 6-month break. 0 winners, 0. Only 5 of them have hit the board, and his 2 turf runners were complete non-factors. In fact, I think one was pulled up and one finished 7th in a field of 8. So for what it's worth, if history is an indicator, this is not a great spot to bet Harold's horse, but he does have an absolutely elegant, beautiful, brilliant last name, which hopefully we'll learn as we go along here.
I think this would be a good race, because we have kind of this time afterwards. I don't know if we have the Woodbine Standardbred kind of rolling up. Do we have time? We have time after this race?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I think we could talk about this race because we have so many questions going into it. Like, what do you do with the 6? And I think that's a good time, like, as far as trip notes or, especially for Ashley, if she thinks a lot of these horses are going to show up in her neck of the woods, like, kind of where, was there a trip? Was there a bias? Were they pace compromised? Those types of things that we can discuss afterwards.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yeah, no, that sounds like a great plan. I'll ask you, since you mentioned doubles in the last race, if you're playing a double from the 7th going into the finale, do you want to give us a little bit of a preview of who you might like in the last so people out there who are trying to play doubles here can do that? Ashley, you want to start?
Oh yeah, go for it.
I went to the horse on the inside and then the horse to the outside. The outside's the first-time starter, Criminal Mind for Ian Howard. Yeah, and then I landed on the horse on the inside, who's dropping in class. And I know she really hasn't shown much in her last few starts, but you know, it's kind of hard to ignore the barn there right now, especially. I mean, they're 4 for 8 in the money, 3 wins, and it's nice to see Kazushi Kimura get aboard this one.
Yep, absolutely. Emily, doubles, late double.
You know, I think this race it's definitely what I'm going to kind of look at going forward. But I agree. I mean, the number one, she's going to run the fastest races in the field, and they're off here. You know, that the drop kind of makes sense. And then the number 2 is a first-time starter I'm interested in as well. But definitely not a lone lead for the 4. Kind of to work for it a little bit, getting out of the gate and pressure from the 6.
Old Harold showed up today. He's like, you know what? We ain't letting this horse run loose. And I appreciate this thing that you just sent over, Emily. This is or the optics account just sent over. I don't know if you saw this. We'll get to this in a moment. Pronunciation on trainer name. I didn't know if that was you or not, but
no, that's John.
All right. So our horse, our Rapid Beat here looks like he's in deep water. Took a little more pressure than expected.
Yep.
And Gasconade and Station Rock, who I think Emily was Ashley was a big fan of as well here.
Yeah, he's getting the trip for sure. He's going to catch him. Oh, is he hanging? No, he's going to go right on by.
It's 2-1 here.
2-1. Nice job.
2-1-4. There you go.
Not ecstatic about the price. But okay. A winner's a winner, right?
Value looked like pretty sketchy in here. Yeah, it ended up going off of the favorite, and yeah. Yeah, I think that's the key is we're talking about races with certain horses is the 4 just kind of looks like a horse that he needs to be lone, and any type of pressure, you know, in the race is gonna falter. The 1, I mean, both those horses, you know, kind of logical. I'd say they both ran a good race. I mean, the 1 kind of made that early move along the inside, saw the 4 kind of drifting out along the rail, kind of made that first move, and sort of moving into a fast pace. And I think that helped the 2. It just kind of sat in the pocket and waited to get his trip.
Yeah, I mean, and look, the two Station Rock obviously has taken a step forward here. New trainer, new barn. This barn is actually hit with a couple of starters here from not many.
The 4 stumbled. I missed that. I was
out of the gate. Oh wow! Oh, that was bad. That was a big stumble. Yeah. Wow. So.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. No.
Other things are really tough to predict. So then you rush into a 21 and change opening quarters. Not great with pressure.
But again, maybe a horse. You know, again, like you said, this is a horse who needs to be loose. So you take a look. I mean, for me, I've actually been utilizing this a lot more lately. Some people take notes in other ways. Some people use programs like optics. They use other programs out there where you can take notes within the racing form, and you can follow up. I mean, I've been using just the good old handy virtual stable, just kind of setting reminders, because for me, like, that's helpful. I get a reminder in the morning. I'm not on top of it every day. I don't do it every single day. I do it most days, but I get the email alert saying my horse that's running back today is running, and I can go ahead and look at the pace and see if there's a situation in which, for example, a horse like Rapid Beat, who not only went super fast, but as you just saw there, stumbled out of the gate, and it was a bad stumble too. That wasn't just a little trip out of the gate. That horse, you see that horse in a field with not much speed next out. Maybe that's one to bet back, and you may hopefully get a better price than the 5-2. I don't know. Ashley, any takeaways from this race other than being right on Station Rock again?
No, I mean, kind of looking at the 2, if you liked the 2 or you liked the 1, you probably liked the other based on, their most recent, starts first time out this year. I mean, they're very similar in kind of their style, and they closed from off the pace. But obviously, we've said this. The key thing was that the 4 had that pressure, and it set up for the closers really nicely. I mean, the rest of the field was pretty far back. Little disappointed probably with the 7. Being beaten by that much. I thought this horse would have been at least closer. It just, didn't set up for this one. So it'll kind of be interesting to see that horse probably next time out, maybe some improvement.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, looks to me like, I think one of the questions with the 7 going into the race was the surface and distance, because that being just like a complete unknown, and just kind of looking at him physically, Kind of looks a little bit longer bodied, and I think that probably coming back on the synthetic with a little bit more ground, I think this level is fine for him, and I could see that upside there. I mean, he was caught wide early, kind of chasing up close to that fast pace. I mean, yeah, not the greatest race, but I think looking at those things, and again, kind of, you know, projecting going forward, you know, just kind of something to keep note of. A partner over optics saying the floor looks ouchy.
Yeah. I mean, that's a bad
stumble. I'd be ouchy too.
All right, I've got to click on this link over here now. Let me try to pull this up here.
This is like my learning lesson, so I won't butcher it in the future.
Yeah, this will be good. You could.
I can thank John.
Yeah. Let's see if we can some clarity on this. Okay. I don't know if you can hear this. I'm going to try to play the audio, so hang tight. Loudouser. Does that sound right to you?
Loudouser?
Yeah. I like my pronunciation better. I'm going to be honest. Like, I mean, granted, I might be a little biased, but I like my pronunciation. Ladouce sounds so much better than Ladouser. I don't know.
I think the C-E-U-R ending is what you're like missing. You're kind of taking some creative license on it and changing it. If I'm being honest, but what do I know?
No, you know better than I do. So
well, I'm also the person with a French last name that we pronounced wrong for like 23 years. So there's that. No joke.
Wow, another show, or you want to give us that story?
When I started, well, this relates to 40ing. When I started, I was in the paddock my first day. Frank Salives, our announcer, he used to call out a harness racing, and he said, we used to tell people Ashley Mailloux, and so he said it's Ashley Mailloux, and I was like, that's really how you are supposed to say it. So I have a new identity.
Let's just quickly. I want to go back to Gasconade here for a minute. Ran a nice race. You know, I mean, he would obviously finish second. But was clear of the rest of the field by looked like a good half dozen lengths or so. What stands out when I look, I just kind of briefly pulled up my notes on this race, and the one positive that I had listed was, you know, posted a 46-4 best of 62 work on June 20th. And you know, that was since the last race, which was a decent effort. And this was the horse, if you'll remember, we talked about a little while ago, who was racing against Tougher when last seen in December, but prior to that had been running at about the same level, non-winners of 315,000. I wonder how much stock, you know, because we saw it in the race prior with Wyattstown, who ran, you know, who worked a 46 flat best of 37 last week and came back and ran terribly on the huge class drop. I guess you got to take it all in context, but I'm wondering, Emily, for you, like, do you attribute, how much weight do you put into a work when you're dealing with this level of horse, with this kind of quality of field?
I mean, I've clocked horses in the past, and I think it's important. Like, I mean, you can only tell so much on paper, and you just kind of have to look at intent. So, like, for me, when I saw the horse in race 6, the dropper with the bullet, like I said, I mean, it just kind of looked baity. I've seen that before with horses when I clocked out at Del Mar in Southern California, a horse that just was going to post this, you know, fast time, and maybe that would like entice some people to like claim the horse. But again, I think you have to know the horse itself and like how the horse works. And again, there's so much going on. There's so much going on in works. There's a horse that I was looking at this Saturday that's running at Los Alamitos. I believe it's a Saturday. And it is a really pedestrian 6 furlong time, but it's actually a 3 furlong work from the gate. So it's like you have to just kind of look at it sometimes, how the work is done, what they're trying to do with it, you know, what they're trying to get out of it, what the intention is. It's a horse that always works fast. You know, those types of things, to where you can kind of get some clues, you know, did that quick work kind of come with the change? You know, that type of stuff. Is it a trainer that typically works fast? I think there's a lot that goes into it, and there's only so much that you can tell, you know, kind of from the paper. But again, you know, I'll kind of go back to Gasconade here, just as far as the trip goes. I mean, I thought, you know, they're right on the wire. I thought that he ran just as well as the winner. I mean, the early move, I think that was the right move for the jockey. I mean, you have that opportunity to take first run, you got to go for it. And the 2, just being able to get a little bit more cover, a little bit more patience, and then just kind of wearing him down late. So I think both those horses ran a good race. We'll look here and see if we can see this 4 kind of drifting out a little bit. He came out off the turn, but doesn't look like it's so much. Maybe it's coming up. Looks a little bit straighter there, but definitely did come out off the turn. And I mean, there's the 7 kind of hanging around for 4th. So I think this was probably, as far as the 7 goes, I wouldn't be too discouraged of him going forward. Again, getting a little bit more ground, probably coming back on the Tapeta.
All right. Before we transition into the next race at Woodbine, the 8th race, which is a really good betting race, we are actually 4 minutes from the first standardbred race. Ashley, I don't know if you want to get that started. I'm going to try in the meantime here. Give me a moment here. We're going to test this out. Don't need to see me that large. There we go. There's that. I'm going to try to remove the thoroughbred screen for a second. That obviously did not work. But I will try to bring in the Woodbine Mohawk standardbred screen here in a minute. Go ahead.
Yeah, I can start it though. Yeah, so it looks like they have a lot of the Ontario Sire Stakes. There's a couple levels there. There's the Gold and the Grassroots. The Gold being the higher of the 2 as far as class. Kind of looking at the odds right now. The morning line favorite is currently the favorite at 9-5, Wine Rack Hanover, and there's a couple reasons for that. Kind of, looking at her races. Obviously, she's got some back class on her. Last year, the Breeders' Crown was at Mohawk, and she finished 2nd in her elimination, then was 5th behind Ramona Hill, who was really impressive that day. Kind of looking at where she stacks here, yeah, she's probably the class of the field. She's got that inside draw today, so there's a lot of upside on her. The horse that I liked and I really like at the price, I'm not sure if she can necessarily win, but I like the 7 Shapeshifter, who's coming out of a race at Hoosier Park on the 24th. Kind of looking at her in there, there's something to always consider maybe with harness racing if, some people viewing aren't super familiar, is kind of that last quarter, how these horses are kind of making their move. And she went 28-1, which is decent. She was 3rd in there. So kind of looking at her performances right before that, she had a really easy win at Northfield, which is kind of to be expected at that level. But even if you go back last year, you can kind of see some of her races with the Ontario Sire Stakes. She's hanging around for a share. So for me, I can't endorse her on top necessarily, but I'd use her sort of underneath. These races are always kind of interesting just to see how everyone's coming in. For example, the 2 is one of the, I think maybe even the lightly raced filly of the bunch. She's coming off a win. They didn't go too fast at the end for her. She went 30-1, but I'm trying to figure out where she stacks here, kind of at this level. She did have a win here a year ago in July at this level. It was a decent win, but I just don't think, she's as experienced and as talented as others. So I'm not really surprised by the odds. So for me, yeah, the 1's probably the logical, but underneath, I really like the 7.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're giving us a 9-1 shot here with the 7. That's music to my ears. And as you know, if you give me 9-1 on anything, I'm going to wager. So
anything that runs, right?
Anything that runs, absolutely, I will wager. And you mentioned, I think it's interesting because again, as most people know, I am not at all a fluent in harness racing, but I do intend to learn some more here as we do this coverage here on Woodbine Live over the next couple of weeks. I was interested in the 1 a little bit, as you mentioned. This one was running in the Breeders' Crown, right? I mean, so that's like the equivalent. I mean, that's the equivalent of the Breeders' Cup, is it not?
Right, correct.
So, and hence the 6-5 price we're seeing on the horse, even though that last race doesn't look great on paper, but I guess it doesn't really matter, right? I mean, this horse has been facing much tougher competition.
Right. And I mean, I think the other thing you have to consider last time is she faced the boys. So kind of something you're not necessarily, kind of looking at the races here. You can kind of see, sometimes there's an F put up front. You can kind of see if they're, for fillies. I mean, she faced the boys last time. So that's probably a big reason. I mean, even in her race before that, she ran a decent 4th. She was the favorite in there. So I think now getting against the fillies, she's going to definitely, the logical top selection. And, maybe she needed some, you can kind of see here. Obviously, she had the winter off, but, you know, Mohawk's racing all year round. And obviously, you know, the current situation kind of, you know, played into this role that, you know, she had that qualifier at the beginning of June, and she's only got those 2 races under her belt. So maybe she needed kind of something to, you know, a tightener, and needed a race to get going.
All right. I don't know if you can see the comment up on the screen. Gilbert Funson, Ashley is like a walking triple-double in the basketball world. Does it all. She does. And as we mentioned, if you're just joining us now, Ashley goes from here to another show at 10 p.m. With Anita Marks, the launch of Betting After Dark, appropriately named. That show kicks off at 10 after 10 at Anita Marks on Twitter. If you want to catch that, they're going to be previewing some of the races at Belmont this weekend. Should be fun to watch that. First time working with Anita Marks as well. Is that right, Alicia? Ashley?
Yes. Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. You know, previewing Belmont for the weekend. Obviously, there's a ton of action on this Saturday there, so it'll be fun. It's a holiday, and there's a lot of good racing.
All right. Very good. So before, I mean, it looks like they're getting close here. If I had $20 to bet on this race, which I do, what would you suggest that I bet?
I want to toss in this horse because I didn't mention her. The 8, obviously, you have to think something too is kind of the positioning, right, in harness racing. So something to note, especially if you know people are tuning in, they haven't watched Woodbine since maybe last fall. They kind of made a change. So here we only have 8 horses. It doesn't matter. But tier 1 that line up right against the gate, that's 1 through 9 at Mohawk. Then the 10 would start behind the 1. You have to like the 8 as well. Now you're looking at that last race. Had the, you know, broke out of the 4 pole, but kind of looking at the race, right, was shuffled to the back in there and didn't take a lot of play. But, you know, if you look kind of at the run line, you can see that she made up a ton of ground. But the big thing is look at that back, the last panel that she did, 26 and 3. I mean, that is flying. That's really fast. So I think here she's going to need a decent trip. That was obviously not a good trip. So, you know, it's going to, you know, kind of depend where she gets positioned. So, to me, I'd probably play some exactas, maybe an exacta with the 1 and 8 in top over the 7. And then as far as like the tries are concerned, I like to play tries. Obviously, you know, something that you do have an incentive here, you have 20-cent try minimum, so you can load up on your tickets and structure them different ways. I usually play like a 60-cent try here. So I'd use those same horses, and I'm trying to figure out who else I would toss in now, kind of just seeing how horses are taking play. I still would probably, even though the 2's she lacks a little experience, I could see maybe her sneaking in for 3rd.
Okay, so 1-8, 1-7-8 with 1-2-7-8 maybe in the try.
Yeah, that's the kind of what I think I'll do. I'm definitely going to play the exacta though. I'm going to use the 1-8 on top. I think they're the logicals. It's really hard to ignore the 1.
Okay, let's see. I think we've got your plays there. Exacta 1-8 over 1-7-8. Trifecta 1-8 over 1-7-8 with 1-2-7-8. Not that I just made that bet myself. I wouldn't do that blindly. As we were waiting for this race to go off, I'm going to go ahead and welcome in our special guest tonight. Mr. Will is in the house. What's up,
hey,
Will?
What's up? Thanks for having me. Hey, Emily and Ashley.
Hi.
I've seen you exactly a year, last Queen's Plate. And Dan, we just chatted the other day. Thanks for having me here. I'm so excited.
It's awesome to have you here. As you can tell by Will's, you know, Dan, I just saw you the other day. Not as excited to see me, obviously, as the rest of the crew. But no, really cool to have you on tonight. And I cannot wait to watch this next race with you. We mentioned it earlier, but Mr. Will making his debut coming up in the final race at Woodbine, coming up in about 10 minutes. We're going to talk about Mr. Will. We're going to talk about how the horse was named. And believe it or not, this is not the first horse named after Mr. Will Wong. So we're going to get that whole story coming up in a few minutes. You didn't happen to handicap this standardbred race, did you?
I'm watching it on my screen. Not name it, then it's solved. Come on, I'm not against that. Princess Pants all the way. 5 to 8. She's the favorite. So, no, we have Wine Rock Hanover. He's the
Wine Rock Hanover, exactly.
Party Pants. Come on.
All right. Well, let's all roll with Ashley then. 1-8 with 1-7-8.
Well, no, I just play 1-8 with a 7. To be honest, as far as the exact is concerned, I wouldn't use the 1 and 8 behind.
Oh, you okay? All right. I built in a little extra protection there, a little safety bet.
She's straight 1-8-7. I feel like that's fair.
Are you gonna fund it too, or what's the deal?
Look, I mean, I just want to live up to what we did with our first thoroughbred race. You know, I mean,
we'll see what happens.
I don't know if you saw that, Will. We like literally consensus, like cold deck the exacta, and if you like listened closely enough and got a little creative, you would have hit the try pretty easily too.
And the super, it was pretty much perfection. But those are just those situations, right? Like having the board, understanding the favorites and things like that, and sometimes those opportunities don't present itself, but that's what makes it a fun gambling game.
All right, Ashley, you do have to call the standard bred races.
I'm not going to call it. Obviously, it looks like the 6 got to the front here. 7's getting out as well. So for me, I kind of like that. Like to see this one kind of more in it this time. 1's got a fine trip right now. Just kind of seeing how this pans out here. I want to see what the big thing too is the time. I'm really
Oh, 1 broke stride. It looks like that's all I know.
Wow. And so did the 5 went off stride as well. So there goes the favorite.
Well, that changes things up a little bit.
Yeah, so now the 2's going to try to then duck over, it looks like. 27-2 for the quarter.
Wow.
This is where things like there's obviously not as much moving around right now.
Is that something that's, I'm so new at this. Is that something that like, you make notes of? There's certain horses that do that more often. Is it pretty rare, like a stumble out of the gate?
Yeah, and you can actually... Yeah, we can kind of talk about this too. These are trotters, but when we go on the races, kind of you can see it in the form too, which is really nice. There's all those symbols that are kind of misleading or confusing, so you can kind of track that. You do kind of notice some horses do that, and some horses rarely do that. So 3 actually has already gone to the outside and is moving up now.
Oh, I was like the 2's
looks like shift out a bit.
It's not the 2.
Yeah, the colors, right? That's
It's so weird, like when you're wired, to like look at those type of things. It's clearly written down below.
Right. The 8's kind of rolling now. 7's got really nowhere to go. Now it's wiggling to the
inside. There it is.
Oh, here comes Princess Party Pants.
Wait. Get this exacta.
Look at this 5 flying.
No, hang in with the 7 for this exacta. Come on.
Princess Party Pants. Look at that.
We're good.
There you go.
Here's fire.
Okay.
Nicely done.
So good, right? I got through 1 hard.
You're so good. That is amazing. Look, I mean, we should like, at this point, I mean, like, we really should stop. We should just be like,
call it quits.
That's it. Like, let's just, let's be done with it. All right. What I'm gonna do is here, I'm gonna remove this from the screen so that we could all be seen here, not in our little small boxes there. And again, excited to have Will with us. We haven't really looked at this field yet, but before we jump into the field and start assessing the field for the finale at Woodbine, which is a really good race, tell us the story. I mean, how did this horse get named after you?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like I've won an Eclipse Award twice and never asked for it. So first filly, she raced under the name of Picked by Mr. Will. We call her Princess. So owner's John Ross, who's also in this race tonight with the horse named Double the Heart. They decided to name this filly Picked by Mr. Will, and they saw me at the sale the day before. It didn't tell me anything. The next day they bought that filly, and I got a Facebook message letting me know. Actually, it wasn't the day after. It was a couple of months after. They sent me a picture of the certificate with the Jockey Club with her name on it, and I was just like, what is life? So there was that. She gave me so many happy memories. She won her final race. Took her 11 tries to break her maiden, albeit, but she's just a lovable, sweet filly. Now she's just enjoying the retired life. And now, shortly after that came Mr. Will. Somebody asked me if I had any intentions of going to the yearling sale, and I had to work that next day, so I couldn't. But I was just looking at my phone blow up around 12 o'clock. All these people are messaging me like, look at the sales results. So apparently there was a yearling there named Mr. Will also. So I've been lucky to have this happen twice. He's a sweet horse. He's a little bit different, has a different personality than Princess did. He's a bit of a William, so he's a bit sassy. So sometimes he likes to bite. I know leading up till today, his biggest nemesis was getting into the starting gate. I know his owner and trainer, Michelle Love. She's just a small-time owner trainer, very modest. Her husband, Rob Love, he's the head outrider at Woodbine. So she's just done a fantastic job developing. I mean, we went to start this horse last year, but just several setbacks, and here he is tonight. He's ready to go. He's good with the gate. Michelle's feeling confident. I don't expect him to win. None of us expect him. We just want him to get a good foundation in tonight. He can work on that potential he's shown in the morning, build those blocks. We're going to get to the winner's circle eventually, but I'm just rooting for him so much. I love this horse. I miss him so much. Obviously, we haven't been able to go to Woodbine to visit, but hopefully soon these restrictions will be lifted. And oh my God, there's my boy on the screen. I'm so proud. You have to share your screen. He looks amazing.
All right, yeah, I'll get the screen share going back on here. Hold on 1 second.
He's by no means a big boy, but he's strong. He's like me in many ways. He takes a few times to get to learn things, but eventually does. So I'll just be happy if he runs safe tonight. I'm really excited.
Well, we missed him going by. Hopefully, we'll get another shot of him on the track here.
He looks good. He looks very, like you said, he's kind of smaller. He looks like a sprinter. So maybe this is
that's the thing. He's bred to run long. His dad not won the Queen's Plate, so he's got a lot of distance in his pedigree. But he's built more like a sprinter. Right on his dam side. I remember when I was a kid, I saw his grandma once. She broke the track record on the turf. So maybe down the line he'll be a good turf sprinter. But you're right, Emily. Definitely, he has that composition of a sprinter. He's a bit stockier, kind of like me, a bit stocky. But he's a strong boy. Let's see here. They're coming by us here.
Hey, Jeff Bratt, that may be playing favorites. Jeff's throwing you in underneath. He's throwing you in for second.
No, Jeff, you're the best. What is he now? 14-1. So exactly, we're not expecting to win, but he, as long as he builds on his promise that he's shown us. He puts an honest effort. We're happy with that.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll have something to celebrate here momentarily. Again, just looking for a good effort here. First out for Mr. Will. Emily, we've got 3 minutes total here. Break it down for us as best you can here.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it a little bit. I think the number one just looks like a horse he's been needing class relief for a long time. So he's kind of run the faster races in the field. This should be the right spot. I mean, just kind of no excuses today. Just sort of in the right spot to win. The 2, when I handicapped the race, looked like a really live first time starter, and certainly the case. Currently favorite right now, 5-2. That's off a 10-1 morning line. Kind of go through really quick the ones. The 3, I think, is probably going to need a race. The 4 was taking a little bit of money, so a little live out there. Connections are kind of doing well this meet, so that could be a positive sign. A little cold on the 5, and I wasn't that crazy about his last race. Looks proper on the drop, but still wanted to see a little bit more. That's the same thing with number 6. The number 7, I think we talked about quite a bit. We'll go through. Is the number 9 is out. The number 8 just hasn't shown enough at this level. I know he's got some fast races, but he's been at this condition a little bit different than the 1. He's been around this level for a while and just hasn't put forth a winning race. Maybe the barn change helps, but I'd be inclined to see another one. The 9's gonna have to wait for another day. 10 and 11, I kind of had the same thing, just sort of look for clues on the track. None of them really kind of jumped out at me, obviously. I know Ashley likes the 11 and kind of seems connections are a little bit more forward in this spot. So it makes sense as a live of the first time run starters coming in here, but I'm still kind of leaning more kind of 1-2, a little bit with the public.
Ashley?
Yeah, I think Emily's kind of hit the nail on the head here. I mean, the 1 and the 2, that's kind of the main draw to me. We just saw. I don't know. Are Emma and Cole gonna get the double here because they won the last one with Station Rock? Like we said, the barn's been doing well. Limited starts though with first time starters. Here, all I can see is 0 for 3, and not that the works are necessarily. I like that they're steady works at least. There's even 4 days between those most recent pair, but. Kind of looking towards the outside, yeah, my eye did land on the 11 out of the first-time starters. I thought this was the better of the few in here, besides the 2. I think the 2, the other thing is the pedigree angle. It's a Charles Pippy homebred. He obviously let this one go for whatever reason. I think there's a lot of interesting angles with that horse. I'm a little actually curious about the 8 Uncle Howard. I don't see him winning, but he's got some early foot. I know the last race over 48 the dirt was 46-3, but the race before that he kind of gave up in the stretch. But they went 45-2, going 7/8. So I would assume he'd probably be forwardly placed. Obviously, the 1, those races were a lot quicker. Emily alluded to that. especially those ones, you know, two starts back, that, you know, that last one last year. So I'm still drawn to the inside, but, you know, I could use the 8 and the 11 underneath.
You know, with the 8 with Uncle Howard, I was a little bit apprehensive, and with the blinkers coming off, I thought maybe we won't see as much speed early. And if that's the case, I actually like the horse that Emily did not like much. That's the 5 Western Society. I thought the horse showed some solid speed on debut, broke from the rail there, which could be a little tricky for a first-time starter. Made an early move, had to retain the rail position, and took steady pressure throughout, and didn't run terribly. I thought Western Society, especially at the price you're getting right now, 11-1. Not a bad horse to play maybe across the board here. And then a crazy, crazy horse that I like is Fraction, the 10 horse. As I'm trying to rush this in, if anybody's trying to throw in a long shot underneath, works coming in don't indicate we should expect anything on debut, but the trainer does occasionally pop with first-time starters. And the horse's sire, Frack Daddy, has also produced 4 first-out winners from 18 starters over the all-weathers. So, again, small samples there with both, but you're getting 11-1 and 24-1. I would throw those horses on your ticket, and I wouldn't disagree with some of the more obvious horses. And, of course, forget all the tickets. Let's go Mr. Will.
Oh, thank you.
I'm not betting, so that's who I'm rooting for. So,
well, I think you brought up good. You know, there's obviously positives with the 5 off the debut. It's just one of those cases where I just needed to see a little bit more, you know, visually watching the race, and that's sort of the same thing with the 8. He does have that early speed coming out of those fast races, but just kind of his overall performance at the level was just a little bit soft compared to his competition last year. But they're off here.
Yeah, it looks like the 8 did get out pretty well. 5 is having to work a little bit. And there you go. There's Mr. Will right up there.
Oh, yeah. Showing some speed.
Forward, yeah.
You know, Will slow rolled us. He had the good info.
I know.
He had the good info, and he slow rolled us.
How about this TSN camera work? Isn't that amazing? Look at this. This is just – oh, you're watching the Woodbine feed.
Yeah, we put the Woodbine one on.
These aerial feeds are amazing. Like, it's breathtaking. How's he doing? He's looking good.
I'll tell you what, this does not look bad at all. Come on, one time.
Just be in the race. That's all I'm asking for. He's looking good. He's putting an honest effort, and that's all we could ask for.
All right.
No, you can ask for a win. Ask for a
Keep
win.
pushing. Keep pushing. Keep pushing this horse. Come on, Mr. Will.
Mr. Will.
Oh my God! Come on!
Oh my God! Look at him go. He's doing good. I'm proud. Look at this. He might be in the money.
Oh my God!
Oh my gosh! He's gonna get a second.
Second. Hold for second.
That's amazing. I couldn't be happier than that. Thank you guys for being here with me for that. You ran so well.
That was awesome. Look,
galloping out, amazing. Look at that.
I mean, if you would have told me the horse was going to finish second, that's not the horse I would have pictured beating him. But
I don't even know who won. I was so busy focusing on
3, 7, and 1 and 2 are in that.
Oh my gosh, good. That's going to be a nice payout for sure.
Yeah, that's John Ross's horse.
Yeah,
double bar. He's a 4-year-old, and that sire is very good with first-time starters. Alternation, yeah.
Hopefully, someone wheeled the exacta. I would imagine that's. Yeah, I could look at the exacta probables if you want to. If you want to get into that. Let's see, 3 with 7. That's a $375 $2 exacta if you wheeled the 7. So hopefully somebody did.
I couldn't be happier for John Ross. He's a great guy. His team, they're amazing. They just welcome you like their family. You know, and that time that I picked them up by Mr. Will's running with them, they're just great people, great horse people. I'm happy.
You're getting a lot of good comments here. A lot of people happy. Cheering for you. There you go.
All these comments. I'm just noticing these now. Hey, guys. He ran amazing. That is a very good effort. I did not expect him to run that well. I knew he'd be in there, but Michelle Love had him ready. She did a phenomenal job with him. But
you slow rolled us. Come on, bro. You slow rolled us a little bit.
I'll be a bit more forthcoming next time.
Oh, that was awesome.
This is very,
very, very cool. So you talked about, not being able to, there was a little bumping here on the head-on here. Should we hold out some hope here?
I willed Mr. Will on top, so either way, that would make me very happy. But I'm happy that John Ross won. Let's look at this head-on again. Let's take a look.
My dad is texting me that he had 137. I'm hoping that means that he actually hit the race. Does that mean you won? I mean, this is a good
That'll be
prize.
awesome.
Don't get my hopes up. My gosh, that would be incredible. But I'm happy for John Ross either way. That's.
Will,
Wow.
you met my dad, right? Didn't you meet him?
I did at the Queen's Plate. He's a cool guy. Hey, Maxim, how you doing? I see him. I see him commenting down there.
Yeah. It's still not official, so you could still. I mean,
you know what? These guys.
I think it's wishful, but unlikely to see a change there.
Yeah.
Come on, Emily. Let us have this.
I wouldn't be holding my breath. But
it's good, honest people winning, and I'm happy to see John Ross in that winner's circle. He's a great guy. And that team, I know all those grooms personally. They're good people, and they love their horses. So I'm so happy for them. We'll have our day, and hopefully we'll be on live chat too that day. So
yeah,
and you'll see me really freak out.
This is a great effort.
Wanted
to ask you. So you mentioned that you haven't been able to go out and see the horse, obviously, given everything that's going on. Typically, are you out there? I mean, how often are you out at the barn? And what is that like for people who don't know what it's like to go visit a horse at the barn? Explain that feeling.
It's just like I've been obsessed with horses since I was a kid. My mom and dad, they immigrated to Canada from Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong, horse racing is crazy. Everyone loves it. You should see their attendance; it's full every night. So when they came over here, it was just like a piece of home for them coming to Woodbine, and it was our weekend thing. I mean, I was like a 3-year-old going to Woodbine, and that was my childhood. Saturdays and Sundays were going to Woodbine, cheering on horses from the grandstand. I remember the first few years, me and my brothers would just play. There used to be an arcade inside the racetrack. And then we just sort of spent a lot of time there. But then my mom placed my first $2 bet, and I won. And my life got changed after that forever. So, then you develop relationships with these horses, their stories, the stakes races, the heroes of the sport. And then that draws you right in. And that's why I love horse racing so much. It's about the horse people, the horses, the stories behind them. And that's what's always gotten me. The betting aspect of the super fun. But for me, it's I love the animals. And, so eventually, my blog took off, and Woodbine was kind enough to invite me out to do partnerships and help promote the sport to a newer generation. And basically, that's allowed me so many opportunities. I never would have thought in a million years I'd be able to visit the backstretch, be around these animals. They're so loving. You'd never, they're like jumbo dogs. I know it's a silly comparison, but they're lovable animals in many ways. They're like having a puppy that's mega sized. They love their attention, they love their affection, they love their treats. They love their candies and carrots. If you just show up with that makes their day, and it makes them so happy. And there's nothing a greater feeling than that. Seeing them that you made their day. So I love the sport. Visiting the backstretch, visiting the barn, that's always a joy. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to go back for the past. I went literally day one when training opened on the backstretch. I was there, but since then I haven't been able to go back to visit. So hopefully, soon these restrictions will, ease up a bit, and we'll be able to go by and give Mr. Will a carrot. Actually, no, he likes mints. He doesn't like carrots. Spits them out. It's hilarious.
I was going to ask you, since you are, closer to Woodbine than any of us right now. Are you hearing anything? I mean, do you have any hopes or any intel or anything that you could share about, kind of, or at least what you would anticipate in terms of, reopening to fans again?
Well, here in Toronto, we just reached phase 2 of our reopening program. So things are coming along, but I don't think until phase 3 they get directives from the government that we'll be able to, basically we're following the lead of the government in health regulations right now. So I think maybe after we reach phase 3, we have that go ahead and green light. Then maybe we're looking at opening up again that possibility. So.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Well, it is official now. An incredible debut run by Mr. Will. Congratulations. 1580 to place. That's and amazing. 910 to show. No joke. A $375 exact. If you had it, my dad informs me that he did not box for 137, so he did not.
Great for you. I'll tell you, my mom did a $2 cross-border, Mr. Will, so she came out ahead. So good for her.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really awesome.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I had so much fun, and hopefully we'll be able to come in and chat again with you soon.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being with us, Will.
Good to see you.
Soon,
yeah. Good to see you, Ashley. Nice meeting you.
Well. Likewise.
See you.
We'll see you soon.
All right, and also at the same time, I promised Emily that I would not subject her to any more harness racing than necessary.
No, you know what? No, it's not. Here's the deal. This is what I said on the phone initially: is that I feel that I can bring value to the thoroughbred racing, right? And especially at Woodbine and like whatever. And I just I've never, that was maybe the first race I've ever watched, I swear. So like caught like clips here and there. And it's just, being in this position, I just, I'm just not in an expert position. I'm in here to ask, dumb questions, and I can see a horse break stride because I've been around horses. But, those type of things, I just, as far as like betting and wagering and handicapping, I know my place, and I know like, there's like kind of a training where like, improve your strengths. And so that's where I'm at, and I'm good with passing it to Ashley. She certainly doesn't need my help. She nailed it. So yeah.
But I will say one thing, don't say dumb questions, because it's always a learning opportunity, and I love answering them. So if you have questions, always reach out. And I think this is kind of cool for ABR and like the Woodbine Live thing to kind of reach out to other groups. I'm never shy to ask questions, and I always ask dumb questions in school, so it's fine. So don't like shy away.
I say it like totally like good-hearted. These are questions that they make. The dumb being like the play on words, because they're questions everybody asks at one point. Just once you're in an expert seat, you should have the answer, not the question.
And that was a key thing. Like you brought up, like the horse went off stride, and I believe the 5 did too around that time. You kind of have to lose position before you can get back into stride and get back into the race. And I mean, obviously that really changed things with the favorite going off stride. So, things to just note for next time.
Yeah, you should have seen me, Emily, the past 2 days, like texting with Ashley, and I'm like, what does this number mean? What is this?
Yeah, I was like, let's have a phone call.
You're like, I'm not texting.
If we come back next season and do this again in the off season, I don't know if horse racing has such a thing, but I will try to step my game up and bring something to the table.
All right. Well, no, it's all good. Look, you absolutely, crushed it early. We couldn't have kicked off any better than we did. So thank you for doing that. And again, we're going to be doing this for the next 10 weeks after this week. So looking forward to having you back on. Well, like I said, you've got a lot of action on your plate for tomorrow and this weekend coming up. So certainly if you can get to that. Ashley, I'm going to go and grab another drink. I'm just going to let Ashley go ahead and just host the rest of this show. Sound good?
Wow, thanks. Not the rest of the show. You have like 2 minutes.
All right.
All right. So for race 2 here, this claiming handicap, you can see a purse 10,000 in here. I'm kind of looking at this field top to bottom. I'm not really surprised that the 3 is the favorite. Came off a pretty easy win last time out on the 23rd at Woodbine. I think my kind of concern with that is it was really easy. You can even see that, even if you're not familiar with the form, kind of point this out. If you go to Woodbine Mohawk Park's website, you can get free forms, which is great. You can get it any day for standardbred racing. That's something that they've always done. So I recommend going to do that. We're kind of looking at this, the 3, got, a really easy lead and just kept it. And, we see that in thoroughbred racing, and it really sometimes applies to harness racing. If a horse can get out there and kind of set the tempo, set the pace, it is beneficial. So that doesn't surprise me, but I also could see him getting some pressure in here. Now, I kind of looked at some horses more towards the outside of the page. I really like the 7 Cool Rock, who taken a little bit of a drop in a sense, but, kind of looking at his most recent race where he was 3rd, I understand he's 12 years old, but that's kind of common when you get to harness racing. You see these horses race a lot older. Went 27-2, but you can kind of see Dan and I, when you're kind of talking about symbols and things like that. I mean, this horse has had kind of some not so easy trips where he's kind of been on the outside and he's kind of had to really work for it. So I think with a better trip, I can see Cool Rock, getting up here in this event. You can kind of see the same thing, maybe even about the 9. I'm not sold on where he'll start tonight. I'm not a fan of that post position, but, last time he was 27-2 and he's kind of been parked out. So, he's kind of a horse that's going to offer some more value than others in here. Dan, what did you see on your studies yesterday?
There's 10 seconds left. I'm trying to get a bet in. How would you bet this? Quick.
I would use, for me, the 3 and the 7 on top, maybe with the 3, 7, 8 with 3, 7, 8, 9 behind, maybe even the 4. I thought the 4 could get 3rd. He was a big price last time out when he ran a pretty decent race.
Okay. I am trying to get it in here last second. Yeah, let's see. 3, 7, 8, 9. I'm probably not going to get this in. I'm going to try, though. Hold on. Keep going. 3, 7, 8, 9, 4. Come on. Get me in.
Because we're going to jinx me.
All right. I got it in.
Good luck.
I've got 3-7 over 8-9 over 4-8-9, and I played a super. So
okay.
I went all in with you.
Yeah, look at you. Just go big or go home.
All right, let's see.
Let's see what we got.
I did hit the late pick 5 at Belmont, so I'm betting with a little bit of house money. So
gotcha.
All right, yeah, I got 3-7 8-9 with 3-7 4-8-9.
So as expected, the 3's trying to get out. 4 and the 6 are also kind of right there.
Victor's got some money on the 4 here, 23 to 1.
Let's see. You're trying to figure out too how these horses are kind of going to, get the trip, and if they're going to get some cover, if they're going to get parked to the outside. It's always interesting to see how things unfold.
My man Bev coming in with a great marketing idea. Let's get an ABR logo on the wheel for one of the races. That would be cool. He also, I don't know if you saw this comment earlier, said one more drink and the wheels will come off for me. So.
Oh boy. So let's see. Okay, so you can kind of see the 4's kind of tucked in, which is good.
In a good spot, right?
Yeah, the 9's kind of. You can see the 9's already been
kind of used and
well,
tiring.
It's not tiring from what I can see. He's still moving up, but there's my dog.
And if we can get this 9 or 7 up for second with the 4 behind, that would be really sweet.
So you went 55 to the half.
That's pretty fast, isn't it?
Yeah, they're going a decent clip there, 123 and 3. Yeah, I mean, looking at what this horse, the 3 last time, I mean, they went 124 and 4, but he's still kind of hanging in there. Let's see if this 4 can just stick around though. 7
a little bit.
Oh no, the 2's rolling now. Oh, the 4.
7's coming.
See if the 7 can stick around.
I don't have the 5 and 3rd. Ugh. The 7. Oh wow, 7 might have won that, huh?
I hope so. That was my top pick, but I didn't think so necessarily.
Yeah.
The final time there went 152 and 4. So, this horse that won Osiris Blue Chip last time out, I mean, he went 153 and 4. Now they've clipped off an entire second. So definitely a lot faster today.
All right. Well, this is the portion of the show where I told you would have to carry us. So as long as you keep throwing out winners, we're doing well here. First race, you nailed. You were right there here too. So let's keep on rolling. We got one more race left. Just a reminder to everyone watching, you can watch the national feed, which is only available in Canada on TSN. You can watch it on ABR's YouTube. That will give you the TSN feed for Racing Night Live. In the meantime, we're just looking at some, watching the last race for the Racing Night Live show on Facebook Live and on Twitter as you're watching us here. And then coming up, later tonight, as we mentioned, Ashley is going to join Anita Marks at 10:10 there or thereabouts Eastern, and that'll be at Anita Marks, looking at the Belmont card. For anybody who maybe has an earlier bedtime than that, is there anything off the top of your head when it comes to the Belmont card on Saturday that stands out to you that you might like?
I kind of focused on the races we'll talk on today, that being the Poker and the Met Mile. I think the Met Mile is a really stacked field, and kind of, looking at the pace scenario and looking at horses like McKinsey and the race that he exits and, what sort of class he really faced that day in the Triple Bend and things like that. It is a really good race. I mean, it's kind of I wouldn't say it's a compact field. It's a decent sized group, but I kind of have my questions about multiple horses in there, and it's hard for me to kind of the pace scenario. I mean, you look at horses like Vekoma or, the 8 in there, there is a decent amount of speed. Mr. Freeze has shown speed before, but he's also, when I think about his race down at Gulfstream, he just stalked, but they went really fast. Rare Form went really quick that day. So, I think it's going to be, that's the sort of race you really need to kind of try to figure out what trip everyone's going to get. And not sure even if you do that, we'll actually figure it out. But
yeah.
But I do like a horse actually, kind of I think it's in race 7, kicks off some of those sequences, I believe. There's a horse in the Ray Handle barn, Jack the Cat, who, if you follow me on Twitter, I've always loved this horse. But if you look at him, there's a reason too. He's in a turf and allowance event. He was just, I want to say, 3rd last time out or 2nd at Belmont in his first start for Ray. And he's the type of horse that he's a hard knocker. He's always going to give you his best effort. And I think in that spot, to me, he's 4-1 morning line. If I can get anywhere near that, I'm kind of going to probably hammer him at the window. So, or literally on my phone. So that's kind of probably one of my plays of the day is probably going to be that horse. And that's not even a stakes race. So.
Nice. Okay. Well, I mean, it does. You mentioned anchors it's the kickoff of the late pick 5 on Saturday at Belmont. So that's one to check out. The one horse, just looking at the race briefly in there that jumped out to me because, I'm Mr. Laurel and I've always got my eyes on the horses that are coming in from Laurel. Joe's Boltcat for Kelly Rubley, a horse who could definitely close from off the pace if the pace is hot enough there. And there are a couple of horses with some early speed. And that usually when Kelly comes to New York, I mean, she's probably not going to get bet down. So you're going to get a square price. You got Manny Franco riding. This horse has actually, had a number of races at Belmont, hasn't won at Belmont, but, at a price, maybe that's a horse that, you throw in there.
Yeah, I've seen him at Laurel and I'm sure I've bet him too. The name definitely sticks out.
I don't want to give away everything you guys are going to be talking about later tonight, but I wanted to mention in the poker a couple of things. One, my good friend and happy birthday to Justin Nicholson from AJ Suited Racing, in partnership with Robert LaPenta, owns Hawkish, who's coming back at Belmont, and obviously I am sort of on a sentimental personal level hoping the horse runs big. Horse might need a little bit of speed to run into, and I don't see much. And for that reason, I kind of like Dream Friend in there. How did you kind of see that race unfolding?
Yeah, you mentioned that about Hawkish. I mean, if there was going to be a quick tempo up front, I mean, kind of look at his last race, right? That's what he got, and he was closing late. He was a huge price that day. I think he was only beaten by 2 1/4. I got it pulled up. Got like 4 programs opened up right now. Chad's sending out the 2 in there, and then he's sending out, I believe, the horse on the outside, right? The value proposition. And, I can't really tell who's going to be the favorite necessarily out of the 2. I think they're both going to be short prices. I mean, it's Chad, he's on the turf. Value proposition, I mean, big race last time out. And I think like a effort like that, if that can be replicated, is a pretty tough effort, but obviously still stepping up. I mean, you have horses like Get Stormy. She's coming in here and things like that. Mentioning the other Chad Brown horse, that Valid Point, we haven't seen this one in a while. So this is, kind of, I don't want to say it's aggressive spot because it is Chad Brown and this horse did win, a grade 1 in first time against Graded Stakes Company. Yep. But, I have some reservations for that reason. It will really depend on the odds in this race. I kind of preferred this maybe from a betting standpoint as far as exotics are concerned. I don't know about you, Dan, if you've kind of planned out your tickets already. I know you like to do your homework early.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, there's actually a new post up on America's Best Race. It will be up actually tomorrow. If it's not up now, it'll be up by the morning. The Dan's Double post that I do at America's Best Racing. This is one of the races I focused on because I really did think that Dream Friend has a distinct pace advantage, drawing the rail. A little bit of a step up in class, but a lot of times the difference in and the advantage in having speed, being able to go early when there's no other pressuring pace presence in the race can sometimes compensate for some of the class that might be missing there. And this horse did run 3rd in a grade 2 last year, so I mean, it's not like the horse is completely untested. So yeah, Dream Friend for me, I think pretty much is the horse that I'm building all my tickets around. Sentimentally, again, I'm going to use Hawkish on my tickets just because I'm rooting for that horse. Value proposition last out was really essentially wide most of the way. And just rolled home with ease, was geared down late, was not even really asked, was on the wrong lead for a while, and still just kind of on raw talent and ability, won pretty easily. Now, again, that was an allowance race, first time he's going to be facing this caliber of horse. But, I think if he runs the way he did last time, he should be tough. I mean, look, he ran in the Pennine Ridge over a good turf. It was grade 3. Last year, not his best race, but it looks like Chad's got this horse right, and I'm expecting the horse is going to run big.
I have one more question while we're on this race. What do you do with Get Stormy? Because in my opinion, her races, her last one I thought was disappointing. You go back to the race at Santa Anita, she was right there, but I wonder if she's not quite the same as she was last year, in my opinion, as of now.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. By the way, Greg on our team just commented, shameless plug, because I plugged Dan's double. But a couple of weeks ago, I will say, because the vlog was so cold and I could not find a winner on Dan's double for like 6 straight weeks, it was cool a couple of weeks ago. The plays that we posted was like about $150 in tickets, paid about $1,700 in terms of the winners on that day. Last week, again, cooled down a little bit, so hopefully we get hot one more time. But anyway, I will stop talking about Dan's double. I'll talk about Got Stormy. Look, I got Got Stormy, if you followed her last year, I mean, clearly at some point last year, you were watching her, especially when she came back off of that like 7-day break. From winning the De La Rose and then wins the 4-star Dave. You're like, what the heck is happening right now? Like, where did this horse come from? To like, I mean, granted, the horse ran in the Breeders' Cup the year before, but like, was not necessarily a household name at that point, and then came back and then really just went on a great run. I mean, even though she didn't win the Woodbine Mile, ran really admirably there. Breeders' Cup Mile, came back, ran second, great, sort of battle with Uni in that one. But look, if you're going to look objectively at what she's done this year, she came back, posted a pretty short buyer in the Endeavor. The Tampa, willing to forgive that one. The Kilroe should have probably won that race. Obviously took a step forward, and then the Bogue was a disappointing effort last out.
Right.
I think if I had to, my gut tells me that she's not near the same form she was in last year. Obviously, mid-season form last year was just posting 100, 104, 109 buyers
all back to back.
Yeah. So that being said, doesn't mean she can't revert back or close to the form she was at. I just I think this is a pretty deep field, even though it's a grade 3. I think it's a pretty deep field to expect her to beat some of these. I would not at all be shocked if she finished, second, third, or fourth.
Right.
So, I don't know.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah, and then we talked about the Met Mile briefly. I mean, my nemesis is Warrior's Charge. I just can't. I just can't figure out Warrior's Charge. I'm just never there at the right time, and so I don't like Warrior's Charge Saturday. So he'll probably win. Apart from that, though, I think Code of Honor, talking about the horse who looks like he's going to be the horse this year. I mean, the way he came back in the Westchester off of a, 6+ month break, and again, geared down, just kind of cruised. I thought that was pretty impressive. I don't know, a mile is his best distance, and we'll see how the pace shapes up if there's enough pace to run into. But again, I think on raw ability, Code of Honor could be good. If the pace does heat up, I can tell you one long shot that I like is Hog Creek Hustle. I thought, he ran a big race, obviously, at Belmont, winning the Woody Stevens last year. And I thought that if the pace did heat up, he's one who, he's there every time. I mean, just about. I mean, he's always moving late. I thought he could make a nice move and pick up a piece or two.
Right. Yeah, I think it'll be interesting. My thing with McKenzie is with that, Vacoma's probably going to want to somewhat go, right? And then there's the speed to the outside. I wonder if the same thing is going to happen to McKenzie this year that it has in the past. You look at that, last year he was flying late, but he didn't really have room. When you look at the ride, Mike Smith, he had options, and I don't think he made the wrong move. I don't think there really was a right move that you can make, but he just wasn't going to get the job done. And I wonder if the same thing with having the speed to the inside, having obviously Warrior's Charge, we know he likes to be on the front or towards the front. I don't know if it's going to pan out for him, but obviously, I mean, he's really classy, so It's hard to ignore him in here. But I don't think he faced the toughest group last time in the Triple Bend.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there, absolutely. And again, for anybody just tuning in, you could hear more about those races, some of the races at Belmont on Saturday, as Ashley joins Anita Marks at 10 after 10 at Anita Marks on Twitter. The debut of Betting After Dark coming up in a couple of hours. Right now, we're not too far from the start of the third race, our final race of the night. Third race at Woodbine Mohawk Park. Ashley, how do you see this one setting up?
I kind of went to the 6 and the 7. You look at the 6, Warwick Vicky. She's coming out of a race against the boys where she finished 4th. 27-3 in that back quarter. I think, getting against, again, we mentioned this kind of earlier, and some of these horses like Weinrack Hanover, who obviously broke, went off stride, but kind of getting back against the fillies, I expect a better performance. And if you can look at her previous races at this level, at this gold level for the Ontario Sire Stakes, I mean, she's won and she's done it pretty impressively in those races. So I do think she's probably the one to beat. I did actually, though, kind of looking at the other horses, though, the 7 Modern Mass was one that I'd maybe use underneath. I do like that most recent race. For me, I'm always trying to look for value. Obviously, we can kind of see that all the horses I'm picking, not necessarily, like I said, I don't think she can win. I do think the 5 and the 6 are probably my top 2, but the 7 kind of intrigued me underneath. I just think with her kind of the class and seeing these other horses, how they've fared, especially the 6 with the class and, the levels, I just don't see the win honors within her reach. She's definitely a logical underneath. And then the 5. The 5's kind of lightly raced. Those 5 starts, those 2 wins lifetime. Comes off a 3rd place finish, which I think it was the same tough filly that she faced 2 weeks in a row and won both of those races. So I think getting away from her and getting this level, I kind of like her today. 3-1. It's kind of where I expected her to be off the morning line, maybe 4-1 at post time.
All right. My next question.
Sure.
How should I bet this race?
Oh my gosh. Wow. True degeneracy coming out.
Tell me how to spend my money. Go ahead.
Well, you looked at the races too. Is there anything that stuck out to you? I mean, you asked
not coming off of what you just said.
Questions. You know what I mean? A laundry list. It was so long. So I feel like there's something you might have found, or maybe you're questioning, or maybe there was a horse you landed on.
I mean, for starters, like I said, seeing as I am not, and we're upfront and transparent about this, I am not somebody who handicaps standardbred races on a regular basis. For me, a lot of it is just off the bat, trying to keep it simple, trying to find some trainers who have been hot lately. And the cool thing is the program that you sent over kind of shows you over the past week or couple of weeks which trainers have done well. I'm not seeing any of my favorites here. Any of the ones that that jumped out to me in the program earlier. I guess is this Tony O'Sullivan is pretty solid, I think, right?
Which one are we looking at?
The horse on the rail.
Yeah, you solid. And this is something we kind of talked about on the phone yesterday. We brought up, you can kind of see this horse that says first time hoppled, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a field, this is an equipment thing that you may want to kind of note horses can improve with hopples. So that's something to you can kind of see this horse 2 back. Looks like the horse went off stride and was kind of parked outside. So that was obviously disappointing. Qualified, finished 2nd in the qualifier, went 27-3 that back panel. So yeah, kind of looking at what form you're looking at. I don't know which one you're looking at right now, the Trackmaster. This horse has some decent numbers that are kind of pointing. Maybe this one would be, offer some value and looks to fit quite well.
Yeah. Just in terms of I guess the hot trainers and drivers that I was looking at when I was looking at the list, like McClure, Jameson, and Filion, I guess, are the 3 that jumped out. So yeah, just like anything else, if I'm learning a new thing, I'm like, so I know, when I bring people to the races, they're always who's the best jockey? And I'm like, there's more to racing than just that.
Right. Yeah.
But now I know how they feel. It's helpless. Just give me one thing that I could focus on,
Yeah, you kind of look at the awards too for harness racing in Canada. They're called the O'Brien Awards. And looking at them, Bob McClure's done well. Louis-Philippe Roy, he doesn't have anything in here, I don't think. He's a pretty competitive driver there. I think him and Bob kind of battled it out last year up at Mohawk. So yeah, I definitely think connections are something to always kind of look at no matter what breed you're looking at. So like you mentioned, I think you're looking at the Mohawk, the free version, right? Mm-hmm. If you go on their website, you can see all the updated stats, and it's really a good tool to use. They even have, I think, the post position stats, which, my opinion, post position matters more in harness racing. Overall, I would say that's just my hot take on the subject. But everyone has their own, and each track's different. That's a big thing. The configuration's different and the banking's different. So at some tracks, you will see these outer post positions. They do decent. In other tracks, they're ice cold. I think think the 6 right here, like the 6 post position is like the strongest right now at Mohawk, and a lot of the other ones are pretty cold.
All right. So you're playing a ticket real quick, trying to throw one in. 6 on top. What are you doing?
I'm gonna go for a price here. So I'm gonna go 6-7 with the 5-6-7, and then I'll kind of use maybe let's see. I would use probably the 1-4-5-6-7 behind. Nice thing is you can do that 20-cent minimum. So maybe I play a 40-center here because I might be reaching a little bit by using the 7 on top, but I'm trying to beat a horse that's even money.
So trifecta 6-7.
Yep, with 5-6-7.
Yep. With 1-4-5-6-7.
6-7. Yeah.
Okay.
So what's that for a buck? 8, 2, 3, 2. Yeah.
I'm about to put it in, so I'll let you know. I wanted to get it up for the people watching. So,
12.
So 6-7, 5-6-7.
And I'm not playing exacta with the 7s and the 6 and the 5.
All right. People are probably tuning in and be like, why are these people not saying anything? Because we're gambling.
I know. That's part of this.
It's hard to
if we're going to handicap, we're going to put the work in. We also have to punch the tickets.
Yeah. All right. I got it in for, I don't know. I hit repeat on the 20-cent bet like 6 or 7 times. So.
Oh, gosh. Sorry to you. Sorry to Marty, too.
No, I think she's resigned herself to this. So, all right, my dad's in too. My dad's in with 6-7, 3-4, 6-7 with all. So he's really like giving himself massive coverage. So the 6-7 come first. I think we're in good shape.
6 came flying out.
Okay.
He's gonna move right over. Looks like the 5's gonna, get cover right behind. See anything else? Not to 7 shuffled back. That looks like that's what the 8 all the way back there.
So over here, I mean, whenever I'm watching one of these races, like typically, it's sort of I'm caught in between. Like I want my horse to tip out and go, but then I'm like, if he's not fast enough, he's gonna get hung out. But on the other end, if the horse doesn't tip out and go, and someone else does outside of him, I know the race is over because he's not gonna like find anywhere to run. So
right. I mean, you never want to be parked, right? When you go to that first turn, you never want to have to stay parked on the outside. You want to try to get behind and get some cover. But at some point, someone's got to kind of pull and draw to the outside. It's just, you don't want to be trapped. So it's always kind of interesting to see who kind of has to make that move. Obviously, it's a little different too. Obviously, you got a horse and now you got the bike, the sulky behind. It's a little different. So it looks like the one's just going to have to go at this point.
All right. So we're hoping this one doesn't finish second based on our tickets here.
Yeah.
Third would be good.
Yeah.
All right, the 5 looks solid, still hanging in. The 7, I think, is in a bit of trouble at this point. No.
Yeah, the 7, that's not ideal, right? Because now the horse is gonna have to shift all the way out and really have to roll late. And she's not even really getting out there.
I wonder if this
3 went off stride.
The 4 just broke. Okay.
It's the 3, so looks like it's going to
6, 5. 7 might. Do you think the 7 got up?
I do, but
that would have been nice
because the ticket that's on the screen is good. So,
look, if that's the 7, I mean that's the way to end this show. I hope it was 6-7.
I don't know. He got for third, definitely. I don't think he got up for second.
Oh, you don't think he got? Okay.
No.
Well, either way,
that's
6,
why I was
5,
like, "Are you couldn't think we're good?"
No. I mean, I was getting greedy. I was like, yeah, I want the 12-1 second over the 3.
Oh yeah, definitely. Let's see.
But man, yeah, that horse really flew.
Yeah,
I mean. And so is this the horse now based on like how far back he was, and given the fact that nothing else really close from the back, or are you going to like kind of make some sort of note and
yeah, it's kind of the same thing, like a stable mail type of thing, right? A lot of people do virtual stable. You use whatever sort of app or website to keep track of that. This is a horse that I would consider. I mean, obviously maybe a post more to the inside, but this horse really, and you can kind of see from some of the races if I pull it back up, I mean, very different trip this time than the last couple trips. I mean, was way out of it. You look at those last 2 because the horse had, was out of the 1 post position, it was very different. The 1 post obviously could get out. Now this horse had to shuffle to the back, but still made up a lot of ground late. So yeah, this would be one I would watch. I thought the horse ran a great race, and the 6, you know, she kind of looked, I wasn't sure what was going to happen with her, but she prevailed. So kind of the 2 favorites there as far as the top spots. But hey.
Nice call. I can tell you what, you've made a new fan.
It's Pops. That's good.
Well, look, I hope everyone who stuck with us the entire time, we still got about a dozen people or so still watching from the beginning. We had lots of people join us throughout the night. Want to thank everyone for joining in and watching. Obviously, our maiden voyage here on Woodbine Live. If you like what you saw, spread the word. Come back next week and every week all the way through Queen's Plate, which is September 12th at Woodbine. We'll be on Thursday, 6 through 8 on Facebook and Twitter at that same block. During that same block, you could go on America's Best Racing's YouTube and watch Racing Night Live with us. And you can bet the races with us here on Facebook and Twitter. Thank you again to Emily Gullikson, who jumped off a little earlier, for joining us. And she'll be with us every single week on Woodbine Live. And thank you, of course, to Mr. Will, who got quite the thrill there with his debut runner in the finale at Woodbine tonight. So congrats to Will and the entire team with Mr. Will. And yeah, Ashley, I think you said it. This is leg 2 of your pick 3. Now you go and get your Red Bull and you come back at 10 o'clock, right?
Yes. I don't know if the Red Bull is the thing or maybe like a cat nap. We'll see. But I will be back at 10:10 with Anita for Betting After Dark. So it should be fun.
All right. You know where to find them. And join us again, like I said, next week, next Thursday, same place, same time. We'll see you soon. Thanks, everyone.